First of all, thank you all for coming. We'd like to begin our press conference this morning. We are here today because 2 Americans are dead, because immigrant communities are in fear, and because people across this country are shocked and horrified at what they're seeing. Renee, Nicole Good, Alex Pretti, 2 U.S. citizens which were murdered by the federal government in Minnesota. That should stop the nation in its tracks. We stand with all of Americans and these faith leaders today who are here to condemn this lawlessness and to say it must stop. What we are witnessing right now is a moral and constitutional crisis. It is not normal, and we should never accept it. An armed ICE agent murdered Renee Good, a 37-year-old mother of 3, as she tried to go to work. Her wife stood just a few feet away. Her children will now grow up without their mother. And what does this administration do? They lie about her, smear her, and say she's a domestic terrorist. That is simply not true and disgusting. Then they beat and murdered Alex Pretti, a nurse and a veteran's caregiver, and later claimed he was an assassin who wanted to massacre law enforcement. We saw the tape. They are trying to tell us what to believe with our own eyes. We know the truth. This has nothing to do with immigration or enforcing the law. This, quite frankly, is state-sanctioned brutality. It is an ICE run amok. That is why ICE must immediately stop operations in Minnesota and across this country. There must be full independent investigations, not DHS investigating itself. No political cover-ups. We don't need a fox guarding the hen house. And let me be clear, not one more penny should be going to this department until there is order, until there is consistency, until there's humanity, and we should never, ever bankroll brutality. We stand against lawlessness. We should not reward agencies that kill Americans and lie about it. Real reform and accountability is a must. And Kristi Noem, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, must go, and she must go now. She should either resign, she should be removed, or we will impeach her. This week, I also introduced legislation to restore constitutional balance and community trust, to stop the federal government from mandating to states what they should or shouldn't do, and to force local law enforcement to making them extensions of ICE. Police officers are not ICE agents. Scripture tells us, blessed are the peacemakers. Jesus tells us that whatever we do to the least among us, we do to him. So I ask you today, what does it say about us as a nation when our government kills civilians in broad daylight and then lies to justify it? Let me close with this. Alex Pretti was a nurse who cared for our veterans. Renee Good was a mother of 3 who still should be alive today. They deserved to live. They deserved dignity. They deserved justice. Their deaths must never go in vain. Thank you, and now I yield to Mary Schultz of Nuns Network.
Good morning. I'm representing the network, which is an inclusive Catholic social justice lobby in Washington, D.C., founded in the 70s by a group of Catholic sisters. We have taken a stand against what has happened in Minneapolis, and these are some of the words that have come out of our office in that regard. As people of faith, we decry the deaths of numerous people on the streets and in detention centers, and the harm done to countless families and our children. We must not look away, but bear witness and speak out. Network remains in loving solidarity with the Minneapolis community, clergy, people around the country suffering cruelty by our government, and we are bound also with all those who are peacefully supporting them. And in the same vein, a number of our bishops and Cardinal Tobin in New Jersey have come out with very strong statements encouraging people to vote against our Congress people in Washington in the Senate this week to vote against a budget bill which will give more funding to ICE, which is perpetrating this injustice. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Rabbi Josh Fixler.
My name is Rabbi Josh Fixler. My grandfather was a refugee. He escaped Berlin in 1939. And when he fled the Nazis, he did not come to America, at least not right away, because the doors to this country had been closed and locked to Jewish refugees. But years later, when he finally did make it to this country, he became a proud American and a fierce advocate who spoke out when he saw anyone being dehumanized. I am here today because he taught me never to be silent in the face of cruelty or fearful in the face of injustice. 1,800 years ago, the rabbis of the Mishnah asked this simple yet profound question: why was Adam created first, so that all humanity would descend from one person? They offer two answers. First, they say that our shared heritage means that no one can say, my ancestors were greater than your ancestors. We are all a part of a human family. Every human being has equal value. And the rabbis go on to say that God made Adam the parent of all humanity so that we would learn that every person contains within them an entire universe. They say that if you take a life, it is as if you have destroyed an entire world, and if you save a life, it is as if you have saved an entire world. Every person has equal value. Every person has infinite value. We stand here today to affirm these truths. We stand here today because we are horrified by the dehumanizing actions of ICE. We stand here today because too many worlds have been destroyed. Too many human beings have been ripped from their homes and torn from their families. Too many have been denied due process. Too many have died in ICE detention centers. We stand here today because we have seen the videos of the murders of Alex Pretti and Renee, and we are horrified that two more worlds were destroyed. We stand here today to grieve with their families, to call for accountability for their killers, and to condemn those who tell lies about them. And I am here today because my Torah commands that I love my neighbor as myself. At the March on Washington, Rabbi Joachim Prinz declared, when God created man, he created him as everybody's neighbor. Neighbor is not a geographic term, it is a moral concept. It means our collective responsibility for the preservation of man's dignity and integrity. He said neighbor is not a geographic term, it is a moral concept. I am here today because I love my neighbors. And my neighbors don't just live in Houston, they live in Minneapolis and Chicago. My neighbors are citizens and non-citizens, immigrants, descendants of immigrants, and natives. My neighbors wear nurses' scrubs. My neighbors wear work boots, and my neighbors wear business suits. My neighbors do not just look like me or pray like me. My neighbors are all of the diverse threads that make up the beautiful tapestry of our democracy, and all my neighbors deserve dignity and safety. Neighbor is not a geographic term, it is a moral concept. We are here today because too many of our neighbors are living in fear. Too many of our neighbors have been ripped from their homes and their families, and we will not be silent. To all our neighbors we say, you belong. To all our neighbors we say, you are beloved. For all our neighbors, let us build a Houston and a nation that affirms the dignity and equality of all humanity. I now hand things off to Reverend Laura Mayo.
My name is Reverend Laura Mayo, and I'm a Christian minister in the Baptist tradition. We are facing a moral crisis. The terror tactics and the dehumanization of our neighbors, the escalating violence and brutal practices being employed by ICE in Minnesota and in other parts of our country must stop. As a person of faith, I and other people of faith are called to love, to welcome, to care for all people. All people. Scriptures tell the story that all people are made in the image of God. This means that all people must be treated with dignity and respect. Jesus commands us to love our neighbors, and not just our neighbors, our enemies. The stories Jesus tells show us again and again that all people are to be treated with compassion. We're commanded to love and welcome the stranger with the reminder that we were all once strangers. What's happening to our immigrant neighbors is abhorrent to the way of love, and it must stop. We must demand that the violence, fear, and brutality stop. We must stand in solidarity with those being terrorized and do what we can do for the work of love, for the work of peace. We can do better. We must do better. If you, like me, are a follower of Jesus, remember that Jesus and his parents fled the violence in their home. They were refugees in Egypt. Remember that our spiritual ancestors were all strangers. Remember that we are commanded again and again to love, to welcome, to care for everyone. Everyone. And now we'll hear from Pastor Adriana Johnson.
Hello, good morning. I'm a Lutheran pastor, and I also an immigrant from Colombia, Medellin, Colombia, yes. That means I know how it is, how the feeling of our people, the struggle that they have. And I write something, and this coming Sunday, we will hear Jesus' message on the Beatitudes in the Gospel of Matthew. I can only imagine how the families of Nicole Good and Alice Pretti will hear the words, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are you when people revile you and persecute and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecute the prophets who were before you." What are the Beatitudes embody is a message that turns the tables on the values of power as exercised in the world far removed from the principles and values of the kingdom of God. What we are seeing on our TV screen has been described by the Reverend and Senator Raphael Warnock as a spiritual death in a sermon to his community. He is the death of the soul on the nation when power is exercised without accountability to anyone. The Beatitudes are an effort and offense to those who adhere to power at the expense of the life of the citizen. One son will always blame and scapegoat the decreased and now voiceless and defenseless victims are the ones who are responsible and guilty. But the videos show otherwise. Following after Jesus can indeed cause one their life in a war gone mad in a nation who has lost her soul. Being counter-cultural cause, Jesus his life. When he stood before Pilate, he resisted the power. When live is the way of Rome, with the strength of his kingdom values, living the Beatitudes is indeed costly. Bishop Mike Corey Homily, the presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church, he began the quoting with that Dr. Martin Luther King. We must discover the power of love, the redemptive power of love. And when we do that, we will be able to make of this old world a new world. Love is the only way. Now, imagine our homes and family with love when love is the way. Imagine neighborhoods and communities when love is the way. Imagine governments and nations when love is the way. Imagine business and commerce when love is the way. Imagine this tired old world when love is the way. When love is the way, unselfish, sacrificial, redemptive, then no shall we go to bed hungry in this world ever again. When Lord is the way, we will let justice roll down like a mighty stream, and righteousness like an ever-flowing brook. When love is the way, poverty will become a story. When love is the way, the earth will be sanctuary. When love is the way, we will lay down our swords and shields down by the riverside to study war no more. When love is the way, there is a plenty of good room for all God's children, because when love is the way, we actually treat each other like we are actually family. When love is the way, we know that God is the source of all us, and we are brothers and sisters, children of God. My brothers and sisters, children, my brothers and sisters, that's a new heaven, a new earth, a new world, a new human family. God cares about justice. God cares about every person made in his image. God's kingdom is multicultural and without borders. Amen.
That is great. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Next, we'll have Iman Eugene Farouk.
Thank you. With God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, I greet you all in traditional reading of peace that is given by the Islamic faith. Assalamu alaikum. May the peace of God be with you. First of all, I'd like to thank Representative Garcia and her team for organizing this press conference to address the issues at hand. My name is Imam Eugene W. Farouk, and I am a member of Masjid Warathuddin Muhammad, which is the oldest Islamic community here to be established in the state of Texas. First of all, I'd like to say that we have to pray for those who are suffering, not only here in America, but who are suffering in all parts of the world. What we see happening here in America is nothing new. You see, it has happened before. And it was because of those who stood up for the injustices that were being faced, the problem was solved. But we still do have issues. And it is our God-given duty to speak out against injustice and the lies and the hatred that fuel injustice. We are justified for being angry because that is a part of it all, you know. And not only that, let's not become so angry that we begin to react in an irrational way. Just because the anger is for what's right does not give us the right to act badly. That's why we exercise our right for peaceful protest. ICE is acting like ISIS. They are terrorizing American citizens, and that is wrong. And that is something that we have to stand up against, because if we just sit back and not do anything at all, then it's going to get worse. Now, I know there are steps that have been taken to resolve this issue, but more steps have to be taken. More action has to take place. And one thing we have to remember, after all difficulty comes relief. This is what God promises us. After all difficulty comes relief. So don't think that we're not going to get relief. We have a very just God, you see, and it is our God whom we all worship that is going to bring us out of this, because when you have a situation where it seems like you don't have any control, never forget that God has the control, you see. So when we are faced with those types of situations where it almost seems impossible to get something better, never give up, because after all difficulty, there's relief. And that's what God promises us. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Congresswoman Garcia. I greatly appreciate your foresight and your understanding of the necessity for us to assemble here today. We the people hold certain truths to be self-evident. All persons are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We the people have assembled here today at this facility because this facility is perceived as a place where justice is dispensed. We the people believe that justice must prevail not only within the facility, but within the communities, within the country. We the people will take a stand today for peace in Minneapolis, but peace across the length and breadth of the country as well. And we do so because there must be peace if we are to continue to have the good life and the good country that we love and enjoy. We must have peace. But there can be no peace without justice. Right. There must be justice if there is to be peace. And there can be no justice until there is accountability. There must be accountability, for the lives have been lost in Minneapolis. Yes. No justice, no peace. There are people who assume that if you have calm, you have somehow acquired what is called peace. Not so. You can have calm in a dungeon, but there's no peace in a dungeon. The people who are in the dungeon are suffering. The people in Minneapolis, the people across this country are suffering. This is a nation in mourning. We are in mourning. And we have the highest office in the country demeaning the people who have suffered the most. At some point, we, the people, will prevail. This is not a country wherein one person has the last word. We, the people, have the last word. Right. And that last word is this: there must be justice for those who have suffered in Minneapolis. There must be justice. And until there's justice, there's no peace. This is not to say that anyone is given a license to go out and perpetrate some sort of crime. No, anyone who perpetrates a crime is not a part of the peace movement. The peace movement is about protestation. Protestation without violence. Without violence. There are always going to be outliers. There are always going to be people who are going to do dastardly deeds. But these people are not a part of the peace movement. Right. We, the people, will continue to protest. I will protest. I understand what protestation is all about. John Lewis and I protested in Washington, D.C., and when we did so, we were in the middle of the street, and the officers told us, "You must move." And we did not move. And we were arrested, as we should have been, because we broke the law. When you protest, have an expectation that you may be arrested. And if you are arrested, then you are to allow the authorities to do that without the resistance that can create some of what we have seen. So it's got to be peaceful protest. It's got to be nonviolence. It's got to be that way. Yes, we can be arrested. Yes, we can go to jail. I've been multiple times for protesting. But I'm not going to do something that is going to cause someone else to get hurt. So I'm calling on everyone. When the protest takes place, if you are arrested, accept the fact that you have been arrested. And then we will go on and we will continue to protest. They can't arrest all of us. That's the thing that we have to realize. All of us can't be arrested for peaceful protesting what is right. This is a righteous cause. So let us peacefully protest. And what happened to Ms. Good was unacceptable and still is. Right. Ms. Good should not have lost her life. Ms. Good's wife said, "We had whistles, they had pistols." We had whistles, they had guns. She shouldn't have lost her life as she was trying to move away. Alex shouldn't have lost his life. He was there standing in between officers, trying as best as he could to mitigate. And his life was taken from him. That was a form of peaceful protest as well. We demand that people respect peaceful protest. You don't push people down as was done in Minneapolis. As he approached that scene, Alex, officers pushed a woman down, or a person that looked like a female to me. You don't do that if you're an officer of the law. You don't mistreat and disrespect people. That was peaceful protest, and he lost his life in the process. Finally, this. There are some people now, Congresswoman, who are showing a video of him as he was kicking a tire on a car. Kicking a tire on a car. And he was, again, arrested, I assume. They took control of him, and under the law, once officers have you within their control, that is somewhat of an arrest. But they took him. And they're now trying to somehow cause me to believe that because he kicked the tires on the car, because he was taken into custody to some extent on that occasion, that his life could be taken on another occasion? Give me a break. You believe his life should be taken for what he did on that occasion? It is totally disconnected from what happened. We cannot allow that disconnection to become the connectivity such that his life would be taken on another occasion. This is insanity. If it's not insanity, it's inanity that borders on insanity. We cannot allow this to continue. Peaceful protest is as old as the Pilgrims landing at Plymouth Rock. It's as old as the farmers coming to Washington, D.C. on their tractors to protest what was happening to their land. Peaceful protest is a part of the fiber and fabric of this country, embedded in the Constitution. Yes. We have a right to peacefully protest, and we shall. And we shall do it because we want peace, not calm. There is calm in a dungeon. We want peace that resides within people so that they will respect other people. And I thank you, Congresswoman, and I'm glad that you chose this site as a symbol of justice, the justice that should occur not only within the courtrooms, but within the rooms and within the corridors and within the streets and within the counties and the cities and the states within the United States of America. I yield back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, and now we've been joined by Bishop James Dixon.
First of all, thank you so very much, Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, for having us today, for calling and convening this gathering of faith leaders from the plethora of traditions that we all represent today in an ecumenical demonstration of our unified stance against violence, against this rabid misrepresentation of law enforcement that is plaguing our society today. And certainly to Congressman Green, thank you for your presence and your words, and to all of you. And of course, I represent the Houston NAACP. One of our board members is here as well, Nicholas Little. We appreciate him as well, and all of us who are here today. It is awfully tragic that we have to have this kind of press conference in this year, 2026, that we are having a press conference in the United States of America to talk about the divided states of America. For the reality is, unfortunately, our lived reality falls far beneath our proclaimed name. And for that reason, all of us should be concerned. Democracy is under attack. And all that we thought were the institutions that supported a civil society, we are watching before our very eyes the demolition of democracy and what it means to be in the land of the free and home of the brave, and I quote, and close quote. This is a tragedy. When we look at what's happening with ICE and we look at the fact that this movement that's afoot in America, it's fascist, it's racist, it's oppressive, it's absolutely dehumanizing, and it strips and robs human beings of their dignity. The incidents in Minnesota are, as described, absolutely heinous, unacceptable, and you have to call it what it is. It's called murder. Can we just say the word murder? I mean, I think we have to say the word that what we witnessed with two murders, just as we witnessed with our brother George Floyd was murdered in the same state. Today, we are now mourning the deaths of two Americans who were murdered. I want to say that with emphasis because where there is murder, there should be an investigation, and an investigation based on the facts should produce an outcome that holds the perpetrators accountable for the crime committed. This is not rocket science. This is not rocket science. When a person is killed, and that person is killed unlawfully, the crime associated with that act is murder. And today, there should already have been arrests. There should already be arrests, and there should already be investigations into the perpetrators of the crimes, because we have witnessed it. We know exactly what we looked at, all of us, around the entire world. It is awfully tragic that authorities and officials in our nation would lie to our children. Our sons and daughters are watching those videos, and they know that crime has been committed. And to hear elected officials and people who are supposedly held in high esteem blatantly call it something that it is not, that is absolutely unacceptable. It is absolutely a crime on the psychology and the mentality and the intelligence of our society. Brothers and sisters, this is not a Democrat's issue. It's not a Republican issue. It's not an independent issue. It is an issue of truth. And we must raise the moral standard to the fact that when something is done that's wrong, we all call it wrong. Whether you're black, white, brown, Episcopal, Baptist, Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, whatever your tradition, we know truth when we see it. And we must call it what it absolutely is. I want to state this, and then I'll close. Unfortunately, now we see some equivocation. We see some shifting and some movement, and some people are saying, well, ICE has gone too far. ICE has been gone too far. Y'all too quiet on me. Listen, it took the murders for some people to finally decide that they may have crossed the line. They crossed the line when they abducted a 5-year-old baby. They crossed the line every time they kick somebody's door in. They crossed the line when they show up without a warrant, without a badge, wearing a mask in an unidentified car, stopping people on the streets, going into schools and into churches and on street corners and at peaceful protests. All of that was crossing the line. And the question I'm asking is, why did it take white skin being killed before now the nation is finally coming to an uproar? Brothers and sisters, injustice anywhere is still a threat to justice everywhere. And I hope that this becomes a wake-up call, because unless this nation stands up collectively with one voice, speaking one language of love for all humanity, there will be a next. There will be another. Let's all band together. Thank you, Congresswoman, for bringing us together in this ecumenical fashion, because today, unity for justice should become the precedence of this hour. We stand with you, by you, and we stand for all Americans just the same. God, please God, bless America.
Thank you. Now to just a closing of a minute or two for reflection, we will ask our state representative to come up.
Thank you, Honorable Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, for organizing this. Congressman Al Green, faith leaders, thank you for answering the call. I'm proud and honored to join you all in this difficult moment, difficult time for civil justice, civil rights, and dignity for all Americans, especially the immigrant community.
Yes.
I came to U.S. as a young physician wanting to heal people, and I've been blessed to help doing that and taking care of my patients before I became the state representative. And I'm blessed to say that now I take care of ailing patients and ailing policies. We are all here because the communities are afraid, and afraid for good reason. We have seen raids that tear families apart and heard the rhetoric that paints immigrants as criminals instead of parents, workers, and students. A woman like Renee, who was shot and killed in Minnesota. A 37-year-old ICU nurse, Alex Pretti, let her gunned down by federal agents. It is terrifying, deeply disturbing for every American who believes in basic human dignity. Just yesterday in Delhi, thousands of community members gathered to protest over a detention of 5-year-old Liam Ramirez. Instead of compassion, families and neighbors were met with tear gas. That is heartbreaking, unacceptable. I know many of the people swept up in these actions have no violent records at all. In fact, 95% of the people have no criminal records that they were caught in. I know that when we dehumanize people in our words, it becomes easier to harm them in practice. That is why we are here today, to speak out to make sure our communities know their rights. Every major tradition represented here teaches us something similar, that every human being has inherent dignity, that a stranger to be treated with compassion, that justice and mercy belongs together. The words of our Maulana Rumi said, the lamps may be different, but the light is the same. That light is what brings us here together. It is stronger than any executive order. That light is stronger than any speech or any headline. Also, I want to speak to the civic engagement. This is a painful moment. It is not the time to withdraw. It is not time to withdraw. It is time to step forward. Let's not show apathy, but show enthusiasm. Register to vote. Support the organizations that are supporting us. Speak to the elected officials. Engage. Let me close. We are living through the season of fear, but this fear does not have to be our future. If we stand together across faith, races, and neighborhoods, we can build a Texas where immigrants' children are not afraid to answer the knock on the door, where families are not afraid to seek medical care, where no one is treated less than human because of their accent, their last name, or the color of the skin. Thank you, Congresswoman, for giving this opportunity. May we all leave here today more united, more determined, more committed to building Texas where every neighbor can live without fear and dignity. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you to all our faith leaders for being here this morning. It certainly has been a very unified display of support and a great reminder, as was said, it is about love. It is about treating your neighbor with dignity and respect. It is about all of us unified, because as was said, an injustice anywhere is a threat to an injustice everywhere. And that's what we're all about. With that, we'll close, and if there's any questions anyone here can answer, or if you want to direct a specific question to someone, just please raise your hand. Yes, sir.
Everybody there, like Reverend Dixon was saying.
Could you identify yourself, sir?
With the People's News on K59.1.
Okay, thank you.
Like Reverend Dixon was saying, it was a black man that was killed before the other people that were shot.
Are you talking about the one in Chicago?
No, I'm talking about Minneapolis. So that's to address what he was saying was true. It was not a national issue to the two other people were killed. My question to you is, in Houston, we've had numerous attacks by ICE. In the Latino community and even in the Montrose area, you had ICE floating around the Montrose area. What do you say to that, and what are you saying to ICE using warrantless, going into places and facilities without a warrant?
Well, you know, as you know, I'm a lawyer and I'm a former judge. I don't think what they're doing by just knocking down people's doors, breaking people's glass in vehicles and dragging them out is not only unconstitutional and against the law, but just, as I said, morally wrong. I'm not sure of all the incidents that you've mentioned, but I can say this. The bill that I just filed eliminates this section of the code that allows the federal government to tell local governments what to do in this area. It's more about changing ICE and getting rid of NOM and getting rid of the top tier. You know, I'm a country girl. I know that when you cut that head off of the rattlesnake, it keeps rattling. So we got to make sure that we not only get rid of NOM, but we get rid of the culture, if you will, within ICE that has led to this, lawlessness and brutality. So I think we need to make sure that the federal government cannot tell the local governments what to do in this area, not to make ICE officers out of police officers, and not to harass people the way ICE has been doing. It is not good for our community. It's not good for anyone. And I think that we all need to fight back on that.
One more question on that. Training. In Houston, we've gone to the Campos Torres incident and various other incidents in Houston, where now we have HPD at least having training and community-oriented policing. What is it to you to try to get ICE to be better trained? Because
Well,
training now is
that is
not
part
bad.
of the package, if you will, that we are using right now in some of the negotiations in the Senate. It's about the training and the code of conduct and the standard of a uniform standard of how they handle things, and it should be much like police officers. You have to remember, ICE was created after 9/11. They were never meant to be a police force. They were never meant to be carrying guns. All that is something that has happened within the last year or so of this Trump administration. So they need to go to their original mission, and they need to just stay. Border Patrol should be protecting the border.
Yes.
Minneapolis is nowhere near the border. We need to, focus on what their job is supposed to be, and they should be well trained. They should be certified. They should make sure that there's accountability. If they've committed a crime, a state crime, and murdered someone, they should be prosecuted. We should not just let it go. And that's some of the things that we've been saying in Congress, but to deaf ears at the White House. But I think this is different. This last two shootings, you're right, there's been others. There was one in Chicago. My dear friend, Congressman Garcia, reminded me of that also. We've got to make sure that this just never, ever happens again. Bueno, estamos aquí hoy porque 2 americanos fueron asesinados por el gobierno federal. Esto es una crisis moral, es una crisis en contra de las leyes de nuestro país. Familias inmigrantes están viviendo con temor. Comunidades están aterrorizadas y la gente pide justicia. ICE necesita parar estas operaciones peligrosas en Minneapolis y por todo nuestro país. Se necesita una investigación completa e independiente. Ni un níquel más debemos de dar a DHS, la agencia de ICE, hasta que hagan la reforma que es necesaria para proteger nuestras comunidades. Christy Nome debe de renunciar o debe de ser despedida. O impeach, yo no sé cómo decir impeach en español. El Congreso debe actuar ahora para proteger nuestras comunidades y defender nuestro país. Así es que es muy importante que nuestra comunidad escuche que estamos aquí unidos todos y estamos aquí para proteger nuestras comunidades y para estar seguros que ICE no haga de esto otra vez. Anybody else?
Congressman, with respect to the legislation, I know that the language says that it does not interfere with what states can do and what local governments can do. I mean, with the fact that HPD is working with immigration enforcement to a certain respect, and the state government, passed SB 4 in 2017, and the latest version of SB 4 is before the Fifth Circuit. If that's implemented, what does this look like on the ground if your legislation lets the state and locals pretty much continue on as they've been?
Well, I think every local government, whether it's the sheriff's department or the city police, needs to decide what their public safety priorities are. They should not be under a mandate from the federal government on what to do to protect their own communities. Law enforcement has to have trust from a community. You don't build trust when you're telling someone that they've got to do X, that they've got to do X. It's got to be left up to the local officials. So the bill that I introduced is about restoring trust, restoring local control, and making sure, again, that we do not make immigration officers out of police officers, and that we don't make a traffic stop a deportation trap. So that's what this bill would do, because it removes that authority away from the federal government to dictate to the local governments.
Is there any funding, or what penalties are currently in place right now that the federal government could levy on local governments if they?
Well, what they do is they remind local governments that they have to cooperate with ICE, otherwise they will take their federal funding. And for some cities like ours, that's all millions and millions of dollars that are used. It's the same kind of retribution mentality that the White House uses on so many people that now they're trying, of course, to do that too with cities. They're doing it with agencies who provide care to refugees. They do it, as you've seen, to colleges and universities. They do it to law firms. So it is about retribution, and the retribution would be yanking the federal funding. Sure.
I want to accept your comment, sir, as a question that deals with accountability and justice. And in so doing, I want to paint a picture, if I may, of what justice will look like. Justice will entail having a thorough, complete, and impartial investigation of the lives that have been lost. Thorough, complete, and impartial. We cannot allow ICE to use its Department of Professional Responsibility to conduct the investigation and have the country, we the people, believe that that has been thorough, that it has been complete, and that has been impartially done. And that won't serve us, and it won't serve justice well. After there has been an investigation, then there must be some litigation associated with this. There is no way for this to become just something that is covered up. We will not tolerate a cover-up. There has to be some litigation associated with it. And because Ms. Noem has, with vituperation and some venom that obviously should not be emanating from a person who is in charge such as she is, she has to either resign, she has to be fired, or she must be impeached. There must be accountability, and it's going to start with the investigation. It includes Ms. Noem, but Ms. Noem is the face of this tragedy. The architect of the tragedy resides in the White House, and the White House has to be held accountable too. If we impeach Ms. Noem, we then should impeach the President of the United States of America, because he is the architect. Ms. Noem is the face. And impeachment is not a bad word. At some point, we have to learn to say impeachment. Can we say impeachment? Impeachment is a part of the solution. I assure you that I will make sure that articles of impeachment are presented, because it can't just be Ms. Noem. It's got to be the President who is the architect.
Judge, we'll take one more question. I know this is.
I'm just curious because we have a couple of doubts with the World Cup coming, and I talked to a lot of European and Africans that want to come over here, and they're scared because they're hearing that ICE officials will be at stadiums across the country, in Texas and Houston and Dallas. What authority does ICE have to do this, or is this something that, how do you rectify the fear that the people?
Well, I think Houstonians and Americans across the country are very happy that the World Cup is coming. But I can tell you that it is concerning. And I know I visited with the World Cup folks here locally, probably around Thanksgiving, because of this concern, because I too am concerned, not only because the fan event is going to happen in my district. And I did write a letter to the Department of Homeland Security sharing those concerns, because it's not just the players, it's not just the visitors, it's the community that's going to be there hosting. It's all of us. Remember, this is about all of us. It's not about one group versus another or this group or that group. It's all of us, whether you're a citizen or not. Remember, the last two people that have been killed were both citizens. And let's not forget that. He is killing citizens. So they didn't really answer my questions and concerns. They simply said that they were still working on it, that they would take all assurances, blah, 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 blah. But here's the challenge. I read somewhere that many people are canceling their trips. Many people are already canceling their applications for tickets to the tune of almost 1 million people because people around the world are scared. There's petitions going around to cancel the games or take them out of the U.S. and put them all in Canada. So we'll have to see what happens, but ICE right now is a run amok. They're totally out of control. They only listen to the felon in the White House, Donald Trump, and to whatever he says. That's the bottom line. Well, that is the bottom line, and with that, we'll go ahead and close. But everybody up here is available for any one-on-ones or any follow-up questions that anybody might have. And thank you all again to all our faith-based leaders here and to all the others that are with us. Thank you so much.